Welcome to Stargate SG-1 for the first time, still not a Star Trek podcast. My name is Jeff Akin, and I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the first time.
And I'm Brent Allen, and I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the 47th time. But for the first time, I'm going to be looking for what Stargate is trying to teach us. You know, those lessons that hold up a mirror to society, give us hope that things can be better in the future, or just tell us how to be better human beings to one another.
As we dive into the 20th episode of the third season, we're going to find out what a maternal instinct is. It's the name of the episode. My prediction last week is that this is essentially going to be a Dr. Frasier episode. We're going to see Cassandra again. It's been a very long time since we've seen her last, and so going to get some of her and Frasier being mom and doing her maternal stuff.
Well, does it still trip you out that, like, the whole thing about Cassie was a bond between her and Sam, and now she's going to go live with Dr. Frasier?
But the thing is, like, Sam literally travels to other planets all the time.
No, I understand the logistics behind it, but when you think about how it was the bond between Sam and Cassie. It was that bond. Okay, go live with Dr. Frasier now.
She was the one who pulled Sam out of her funk after Jolinar died.
Yeah.
Like, there's a real thing there.
Also, remember when they traveled to 1969 and then they were coming home and they actually overshot?
She was the whole thing.
Yeah.
We're not going to overshoot this one, though. And before we almost even try to overshoot it, why don't you tell us what it looks like to hit it dead on?
Yeah, well, dead on, 20th episode. Second to last episode, season 3, Maternal Instinct, air date March 1st, 2000. We had a little bit of a break last week. Written by Robert C. Cooper, a name you should be familiar with at this point, but the director is a new name for you, Jeff. His name is Peter. I'm hoping I'm saying this correctly. Woest or Waste? It's W-O-E.
Weast?
Well, because like you got like Walter Koenig, which is K-O-E.
But that could also be I had a teacher in school with that spelling. It was Koenig.
Koenig, yeah. So it could be Woest. That's why I'm going with Woest.
Okay.
But Jeff, do you remember last week with New Ground, I introduced you to a lady named Heather Ash. Heather had been around as script editor since the very first episode, worked on pretty much everything. And they're like, hey, why don't you write an episode? And turns out she'd written a couple of them, and that was the third one that she'd actually written. Kind of the same thing going on here, except it's now in the director's role, not a writer's role. Peter has been around since Children of the Gods. He's worked on nearly every episode as the director of photography for the production. But here, for the first time, he's stepping into the big chair, the big director's chair. And he's going to kind of pull like a Jonathan Frakes type situation where he's going to catch an episode or 2 or 3 per season from basically here on out.
Wow, cool.
But it's interesting to me, you know, Stargate really is like a family. They keep things very much in the family with what they have going on. So I kind of like that about the production. And he is going to remain in the role of director of photography for all the other episodes, or most of the other episodes that he doesn't personally direct. With that, Jeff, that's all I got for you on the front end of this, because I can't get into anything else without spoiling the whole episode. So what do you say? Let's go watch this episode.
Let's do it.
Hey, listen, if you're joining us for the very first time, you're amazing. Welcome. Every episode is somebody's first episode. So the way this works is Jeff and I are going to go watch this episode right now. If you're hanging out with us on YouTube, stick around, because you're going to be able to watch the reaction. Jeff and I are going to do a live reaction to this video together right now. If you want to see the full unedited version of that, plus all the extra stuff that we do here on the video channel, head over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Bye Nerds.
If you're listening to us on a podcasting app, we're going to meet you in the future on the other side of the episode, where I'm going to share my first-time thoughts and reactions. Brent's going to share the sci-fi messages that he found. Brent, let's dive into this one. Maternal Instinct.
Chevron 7 locked.
All right, Jeff, that was Maternal Instinct. I'd like to say welcome back to our audio listeners out there. You and I have just finished watching this episode. You for the very first time. Me for a great many a time, but looking for messages. Jeff, you get to go first. Take us through it, first-time viewer. What do we think of this episode, Maternal Instinct?
I have one big question. Just one.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just me, or is Tilk's face getting really chubby?
It's not you.
Yeah, like I felt like I kind of noticed it last week, but like
yeah,
earlier, so I was just like, oh, it's very round.
So, yeah, it's getting showy.
All right, that's all I have in this episode.
He says, basically, I guess the donuts at craft services like really got him.
Seriously?
Yeah. He'll get to a spot where he starts thinning out. I mean, you know what Chris Judge looks like today. He does get to a spot where there is a YouTube video out there that basically tracks Teal'c's face from episode 1, like all the way to the end. And I mean, it's almost looking at the kind of change from like a Michael Jackson before and after type picture.
Really?
Like not quite that extreme, but it's pretty close.
This is clearly a big episode, right? This is like Harcesis and all that kind of stuff. I think just to kind of put the end at the beginning, they ended this episode with like this sense of awe and wonder, you know, like even Teal'c and Bra'tac, who are out to kill false gods, you know, crossed their arms on their chest and gave a bow. Like they treated this Oma Desala like a for real's god, you know, or some being worthy of worship. I don't think the episode did a good enough job, though, for me to really buy into that sense of awe and wonder.
How do you mean?
The music lifted up. They did this like cinematic when it flew into the Stargate, you know, over the SG-2 team and everything. Like, oh, it's this big thing. And I'm just like,
oh, yeah.
Like it was an alien that, I don't know, like it needed to use the Stargate. That seems pretty underwhelming when this whole time they've been talking like it can transcend to other planes of existence and stuff.
Right.
I think it's very interesting. You know, I think like they talked about how this group likely seeded some of the mother nature sort of religions and beliefs and things like that in the earliest times on Earth. So that's kind of cool. Like Oma Desala is mother nature, and that's cool. Also, probably not a Goa'uld, so some other being, but they spent a lot of time in this, and it really like everything in this episode was interesting. At the beginning, when they first like started doing the deductive reasoning and cross-referencing legends and myths to figure out where Keb was, the whole idea of Bra'tac facing mortality. No, I'm probably done. I'm getting tired. I'm getting pretty old. And his whole arc to the end where he's like, I feel young and ready to fight. We have false gods to kill. It's very interesting. Finding Keb. And then the Buddhist, kind of Zen Buddhist person, and Daniel going through that whole thing, learning to light a flame. Interesting.
Yeah.
It didn't all come together, though. It wasn't cohesive. It felt like a lot of really cool ideas.
Yeah.
That was really meant to say, yes, the Harcesis exists. Yes, it was on Keb. It's safe, and now it's somewhere out there. And the thing that's protecting it has the power to fry people and launch lightning, like a very powerful being.
Literally catch multiple staff blasts coming from different angles.
Yeah, snatch them right out of the air. So I mean, this was a good episode. I just feel like it's not as good as they wanted it or meant for it to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And there were little pieces too. I called it out when it happened in the episode when Oma Desala was about to reveal herself for the first time. She was this flash of, well, first she kind of showed through in a pond. I think Jack was looking at it. No, Teal'c and Sam were looking at it. I'm like, oh, that's a very Goa'uldy looking slither right there. Then when she appears to Daniel, the way it reflected in his glasses, his eyes looked really Goa'uldy when that happened.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems super intentional, or maybe it's just the way the lighting worked, I guess. I don't know. I wish I had more of a reaction to things. But one thing I've noticed in Stargate is oftentimes it'll build up and pose a question. Mike, the one it built up for me, will Daniel be able to do this cool stuff outside of here, or is this a local phenomenon? Like, is he going to be able to light fire out of dirt, manipulate guns in midair? Well, the answer to that question, it was Mother Nature the whole time.
Yeah.
And not him at all. And I think, too, it was this weird thing where Daniel was both in awe of just the being of Oma Desala, the way that she communicated and used her powers. Also, he was disappointed and upset and frustrated. And I'm not sure, I don't know. I feel like he was trying to be multiple things at the same time, which watered down the overall reaction to what happened. But on a good note, we have something to update our tracking board with.
It's been a while.
It has been.
It's been a while. Yeah, we are keeping track of several things. One of the things we are keeping track of is every time Jack says For Crying Out Loud. And we got a new For Crying Out Loud in this particular episode, which is going to bring us up to an even 20 For Crying Out Loud, Jeff.
20 for Crying Out Loud. It's pretty cool. I think my last thought on this episode is this is clearly a paving the road episode. Like, this happened, and now there's possibilities in the future.
Let me ask you, do you think that's true because I said something at the beginning, because you've just kind of come to see how Stargate operates, or it's exactly what you said, where it's just clearly this thing?
I think it's clearly the thing. Through this season, from the time of Eminette, when we found out she was pregnant and the whole thing, that's been a big through line in this season, has been the Harcesis. Big deal. They're not going to just bring out the Harcesis and be like, oh, here it is, now going away, especially building up the threat that he is and all those things. And so this was basically, what I feel is this was a thing to say, hey, all this stuff we've been talking about, totally legit. See, here he is right here. Also, taking him off the board for a while. You'll see him later. And a lot of the stuff will make sense when you see him, because it's going to be weird. Maybe he'll be older than he should be, or be able to do weird mind power-y stuff. And
he'll grow faster than he should or something.
Yeah. But with this, all of that would make sense. So I think just the way Stargate tells its stories, this was clearly a launch pad for future things. And while it might be a launch pad, was this a crucible? Did we learn from this? Were there any sci-fi messages for us to partake from?
Well, I'm not really sure that it was a launch pad, but it definitely was a lunch pad. That's a little Walt Disney World humor there for folks who are in the know. Was there anything, Jeff, this episode was chock full of stuff. If you knew that the candle was already lit, then the meal's been cooked a long time ago. Don't put anything between you and the place you are. Trust Oma Dasala. Know that I'm not the one doing it. I just have faith that she's the one who's doing it. But does any of that really equal a sci-fi message? Not just a moral message, not just but a sci-fi message. Is it telling us something that really we can only get through the medium of sci-fi? Let's go through the litmus test. Do we get a hope for a better future? Okay. Are we talking about how we can be better human beings to one another?
Maybe. If you read into the Zen cones that they were sharing.
Oh, so you got to read pretty far into it.
Yeah, very far into them.
Does it hold up a mirror to society? No. I mean, outside of here's a Japanese Shinto Buddhist. Actually, that'd probably be more Chinese, wouldn't it?
It's very Buddhist.
No. So unfortunately, I gotta go. No, this really isn't one of those episodes. I like this episode. I've always liked this episode. The words that they say, it's kind of like a little mind trip, it's a real hardcore mind trip, but I love the monk. He's probably one of my favorite guest stars. I don't even know his name, but I really enjoy him in this show, in this episode. So
perfect in the role.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But unfortunately, I'm not here to talk about how much I like the episode. I'm here to talk about the messages, and they're really just not there for me. And that's okay. I want to remind people, a lot of times the best episodes don't have messages. A lot of times the worst episodes out there actually have really deep and poignant messages. It's just how it seems to work. Not always, but it does seem to be that it works that way. So, Jeff, I don't know that I can even really give this one a chevron. I just don't think it was there.
I agree. When I was kind of keep an eye out for things. And, on my life journey in the last, year or so from the time we're recording this, I've really developed a meditation practice that I do on a regular basis. And I think it's an important thing everybody should do. It's pretty amazing. And this episode hit on that. And I was kind of pulling some messages from the episode in regards to that, but that's based only on my own personal experience. That's not in the episode itself. At most, I could see a chevron, but every single message in this is something you have to have your own shovel and do your own digging to get to. So I think 0 is a very fair rating.
Well, I am rating, but you, my friend, are ranking. You get to place this episode in our 100% completely accurate, definitive, immutable ranking of Season 3 of Stargate SG-1. Oh, where to go? There's so many. Let's just do the top 5 just because. The number 1 episode right now is Jolinar's Memories and the Devil You Know. That was a 2-parter, so really we count it as 1. Forever and a Day. Number 3 is Fair Game. Number 4 is Shades of Grey. Number 5 is Pretense. Jeff, I'm not sure that this episode cracks the top 5. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. You get to make that decision. Where does this episode go? Maternal Instinct.
It comes pretty close to the top 5. I think I was pretty harsh on it when I was going through my for the first time reactions, but this is a good episode. I'm going to tell you what it's not better than, though. It is not better than Foothold. It is better, though, by a slim margin than Learning Curve, making this one, Brent, our new number 7.
That's a pretty strong, man. I'm looking at this top 10 episodes here.
Some good episodes in here.
It's our top 12 episodes. I think for me, that's where the line draws, is right at number 12 right now for us.
Like, I can see 13, which is Dead Man's Switch. That was fun, but also,
Yeah, Rules of Engagement. Rules of Engagement is okay. I could throw that one up a little bit. But Demons is just a little New Ground. I feel like I've seen that so many times before, and What Really Happens. Point of View, Seth, past and present. Like, I'm okay not to watch those episodes again. But it's a good spot, Jeff. Very, very good spot right there. Number 7 is where we are going to place this.
I can be a very fair ranker.
I can be a very fair raider.
Look at that. We're good R&Rs.
Although I prefer to be a Buccaneer than a Raider, but whatever.
There is that.
Well, Jeff, that's going to do it for us this week on Stargate SG-1. That is it for Maternal Instinct. Jeff, would you like to know what we are watching next week?
Yeah.
All right, next week we're oh, buddy, you're never going to guess what this one's about. We are watching an episode titled Crystal Skull.
Kingdom of, or just
nope, just
no Indiana
Crystal Skull.
No Indiana Jones in this one. So I will bet $100 Canadian that we will see a crystal skull. Human, not an alien one. Like, we'll see a crystal human skull in this one. And it's going to have a message that they're going to have to figure out, like, is it like a resonant thing? Like, how do they get it? Sort of like it'll bring it in, it'll cause some problems. What's going on? And then probably Sam will be like, oh, this frequency is whatever. And so it's going to be a literal crystal skull that carries some kind of important message.
You're a good guesser, Jeff.
Let's see. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us right here on Stargate SG-1 for the first time. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Hey, please don't forget to subscribe while you're out there to wherever you get the show, whether you're listening on an audio podcast, whether you're listening on a video podcast, whether you're at the YouTube, Patreon, Spotify, Audible, any of those places. Please rating, review, comment down below if comments are available. We love getting to see those. We love getting to interact with you guys. And most importantly, please, please, please do share this show with somebody that you know who loves Stargate SG-1, or like my friend Jeff over there, needs to get into the gate for the very first time. So for Jeff, I'm Brent. We're signing off. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next time right here.
Hey, Brent.
Stargate SG-1 for the first time. Yep.
Dude, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling awesome right now. I got all this energy and stuff. We should hook up. We should go out and do something.
It's really kind of late. I mean, what do you think I am, like 20 years old? And I gotta go to bed, man.
No, that'd be wild. No, I'm feeling super young, vibrant, young, alive. I mean, not a day over 80.
You don't look it either.
Barely.
Indeed.
If you Google Dasala, all that comes up are Stargate links.
Is it really?
Many, 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 many Stargate links.